Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time of continuous change and development with a dynamic landscape that favors the youth and technology. Yet, there's still no lack of examples of young change makers who are not let into the boardroom of high-level decision makers and executives. When I was graduating from secondary school, I wanted so passionately to work for children's right to education, especially in Afghanistan. And I contacted every major NGO and public institution only to be rejected. You're too young, they said. It's when you go against the status quo and challenge their convictions by standing firm on that you're able to realize your vision. That's what differentiates a leader from a pioneer. I didn't know this back then, but I knew that I could not settle for doing nothing. So together with my brothers, we founded Brighter Tomorrow. The year after, due to our continuous efforts with raising awareness and advocacy work, I was fortunate enough to be sent to United Nations as a youth delegate. There we had the great pleasure of being in a panel discussion with the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And when I came to the UN, I was incredibly hopeful and ambitious. I thought that we would draft a resolution, allocate the appropriate funding and measures, and ensure the education of every children across the globe. Needless to say, it didn't go quite like that. I came home from United Nations feeling a sense of despair. I felt that there was a lack of action from a current generation of leaders. And due to that, I felt that the future of Afghan children depends on the actions that we as youth collectively take today. The first step in every successful venture is to gather a group of individuals who are able to realize your visions. So we gathered a group that would be diverse, highly motivated, innovative, but also that their sole motivation for joining us would be to ensure that Afghan children would have had the same access to education as we did in Norway. We then mobilized every student we knew, filled the streets of Norway. Studentaksjonen, the student campaign, was our name. Helping our fellow youth in Afghanistan was our mission. 3 yearly fundraisers later, we have now mobilized more than 2,000 different students across 7 different cities, engaging our heads of state as well as the opposition, raising a total of 1.7 million Norwegian kroner. But more importantly, thanks to these efforts, we have now ensured the right to education of 1,750 children and youth in Faryab in Afghanistan today. Thank you. Thank you. This August, 2 years later, I returned back to United Nations. My intent for the trip was to collect a prize and hold a speech in the respective halls of UN General Assembly in front of 1,500 youth delegates. But the highlight of that week became something completely different. I realized that not only in Norway, but globally, there's a shift that's coming. The shift of emerging leaders not resembling the current leaders of today. They're defined by that they have an integrated approach towards serving their institution as well as sustainability and socioeconomic development. Their characters are defined by a sense of continuous learning, innovation, gender balance, diverse, a stronger sense of global citizenship. But more importantly, they have this inherent duty to feel that they have to ensure that the world becomes a more just and sustainable world than from what it is today. And on that notion, in this respective event with heads of NGOs, respective CEOs and heads of public institutions, I would kindly like to remind everyone that we are the first generation that can eradicate global poverty. We are the last generation that can tackle climate change before it's too late. And because of that, I would challenge you to not only support us, the youth, in our endeavors, but to give us a seat at your table as well. If we are to succeed with the Sustainable Development Goals in regards of ensuring our certain unalienable rights, such as right to education, decent work, economic growth, tackling climate change, we need to include our biggest asset, the youth. The future belongs, after all, to us. Thank you for your time.